So it turns out I was wrong about what I told you about the upright GPU mount in Lian Li's new O11 dynamic EVO. So I made a very detailed thermal testing video testing 19 different configurations in the case. And when I looked at the temperatures with the GPU mounted upright, they were absolutely horrible. So you can see here, using the upright GPU mount, our 3080 reached a maximum temperature of 85 degrees during the ASUS stability test. And this was a whopping 22 degrees more than the same graphics card mounted in a vertical orientation with exactly the same fan layout in the case. So my conclusion in that thermal testing video was that under no circumstances should you mount your graphics card in an upright position. While I did think it looked great and it made your build stand out, the temperatures were just too high to make it even something that you should consider. Now, shortly after I made that video, I did get contacted by a couple of the viewers of the channel who pointed out that they would expect those incredibly high temperatures with a STRIX card mounted in that position. And they pointed out that it wasn't actually the graphics card being in that position, it was the STRIX card being in that position that was the problem. And due to the heat pipe design in the STRIX cards, they were never going to work in that particular orientation. And what they had suggested was I should do an inverted build, and rather than in the standard build where the IO's at the top and the graphics card hangs down the way, in the inverted build the IO would be at the bottom and the graphics card would be extending up from the bottom. And they said that in that inverted build the temperatures would be significantly better. Shortly after that, Lian Li responded to the issue of high temperatures. They had done their own internal testing, and what they had found, this issue was solely related to the RTX 3000 series and 6800 or 6900 STRIX and TUF cards, and that other graphics cards were not affected. And they had similar advice: if you have one of these graphics cards and you want to go with an upright mount, you should use the inverted case design and you'll actually get pretty good temperatures. So I went ahead and put an inverted build together, and it was exactly the same fan and AIO configuration as I've already shown you. So the AIO was at the top set to exhaust. We had 3 fans at the bottom, 3 at the front set to intake, and a single rear exhaust fan. So rerunning the temperature test with exactly the same graphics card and exactly the same fan configuration, but now with it in a different upright position. So taking a look at the maximum GPU temperatures under a 10-minute ASUS stability test, we can see that mounting the graphics card upright in the inverted case design brought temperatures down by a whopping 20 degrees. So based on those results, it seems that it's actually the graphics card that's given us the problem rather than anything to do with the case. But the only way to be sure was to test this out with a different GPU. So I used NVIDIA's RTX 3060 Ti in 4 different positions: horizontal, vertical, with the upright GPU mount in the standard configuration, and the upright GPU mount with the case in the inverted position. Taking a look at the temperatures, it is important to say that the fan configurations and AIO placement varied slightly, although the first 2 and the last 2 shared exactly the same configurations. So here you can see the temperatures are much more closely grouped together. There's only 5 degrees of difference between the lowest and highest GPU temperature. And the other important thing to point out is that the upright GPU kit actually gave us the best temperatures, whether the case was in the standard orientation or inverted. So the results here are fairly clear. It was actually the graphics card that I had chosen for this particular build that was causing the issues rather than the upright GPU kit. And in fact, the temperatures with the upright GPU kit were incredibly good, as well as providing some stunning looks. So if you do have one of NVIDIA's RTX 3000 series cards or AMD's 6800 or 6900 cards, and you do want to mount it upright in this case, this is a really important thing, and you were worried in my original testing that you weren't going to be able to do it. You can still do it, but you're going to have to mount it with the case design inverted. And in that orientation, you're going to get some incredibly good temperatures. The other key takeaway message from this, based on my testing with the NVIDIA 3060 Ti, is that if you don't have one of these cards that's affected, in fact, mounting your graphics card in the upright position is going to give you some of the best temperatures in this case, regardless of whether you use the standard orientation or the inverted design. So really important information to share. It's very different to what I told you in my original thermal testing video, which was the whole reason I decided to make this video, to put the record straight. So as well as addressing the temperature issues with the upright GPU mount, Lian Li also provided some additional information about the EVO. The first was about mounting fans behind the upright GPU mount, and in their original construction manual, this was not an option. Lian Li did feedback that there is a way to mount fans behind the upright GPU mount, and I did go ahead and test this out. The first thing you're going to want to do is size your graphics card up by sliding it into the upright GPU mount in the case. Next, you're going to want to position the L-shaped bracket, taking care it doesn't interfere with the PCIe cables coming into the graphics card, and you're going to want to line it up with the 140mm fan mounting slots on the removable side bracket. Then you want to go ahead and secure it with a single screw. Importantly, you're not going to want to tighten the screw too much because you are going to have to twist the bracket to the side to allow you to remove it. Next, you can remove the graphics card from the case. Then you're going to want to rotate the L-shaped bracket 90 degrees, which is going to allow you to remove the side fan stroke radiator bracket from the case. After installing the fans to the bracket, the side radiator stroke fan bracket can simply be slid back into the case and the L-shaped bracket rotated back to its original position. The graphics card can then be installed exactly the same as I showed in my full step-by-step build guide. So although in the video I showed you this with the case in its inverted design, it works exactly the same way with the case in its original position. I think this is absolutely massive, this extra bit of information from Lian Li. The only reason that I could think the original temperatures were so high in the upright position was because the graphics card was right up against the hard drive panel at the back of the case. We now know it was due to the graphics card that I had used rather than the actual positioning. But I think this is so big because now, even if you don't want to put fans behind the graphics card, you can actually install it with the original fan bracket. And then the top of the graphics card isn't going to be up against a panel. It's going to have lots of open space and then a vent behind it. So the airflow in the case is going to be significantly better whether you do or don't install fans behind the graphics card. So does having fans behind the graphics card actually help with the temperatures? The short answer is yes. If you want the long answer, you're going to have to check out my thermal testing video in the inverted case design. So I've made a separate video giving the best configuration if you're going to invert the case. And in that I address the issue of fans behind the GPU or no fans behind the GPU. So you'll find a link to that video in the description. The final bit of information that I want to give you about the upright GPU kit, and it was something that a lot of you had complaints about from my original build video, was that you did not like the riser cable stretching across from the motherboard to the graphics card. Now I think in my build, one of the issues was that I had gone with a black and white build theme, so I was using a black motherboard, a black graphics card, but I had a white riser cable. I also used a black AIO, so the white riser cable did look out of place. A few of you had suggested why not go with a longer riser cable so it can be routed around the back of the case to the graphics card. Now Lian Li have responded to this, and what they have said that obviously they are limited in the length they can make the riser cables to make sure that there's no interruption to the data going along them, but they are working on a slightly longer riser cable that will allow you to do this. Based on the comments that they have had, they're also releasing an additional accessory, which is they are just going to sell the brackets for the upright GPU kit without the riser cable. So you're going to be able to use your own preference of riser cable in your build should you want to do that in the future. And I think if I was doing this again, I would definitely want the white bracket for the white case, but actually a black cable would look much better. So well done to Lian Li for addressing this particular issue. Okay, so that's everything that I want to share in this update. Hopefully you found the video useful. If you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video.